This video is for members of our Goals and Growth group, for me to express the philosophy that we hope to cultivate through this group, bundled together with my analysis of one of my favorite movies, 1987's Robocop. Thanks for clicking. The purpose of our group is for men to encourage, coach, and advise each other in achieving our long-term goals, guided by a philosophy that boils down to accepting this piece of good news. By aligning your goals with your purpose, you can experience fulfillment and peace. Figuring out what your goals should be that will bring about this alignment is up to each of us individually, and is a matter of learning to listen to the quiet voice that each person has inside them telling them such things. This is a spiritual exercise. The most concrete way I can express it is that it's akin to meditation. The way meditation works is that you have one thing that you are supposed to be concentrating on. But naturally, your mind wanders, so the mental task of meditation is to keep bringing your attention back to that one thing. For us, the one thing is that quiet voice inside that tells us how to align our goals with our purpose. By repeatedly refocusing our attention upon it, we get better and better at hearing it. Like with meditation, I don't have it perfect. Nobody ever will have it perfect. It's an exercise. Some people think of that voice as God, which may even help you cultivate the relationship. Honestly, even though I'm not religious, I find myself thinking of the voice in those terms too. It sort of feels right. In fact, that connection is why I've used the term good news already a couple times in this video. In Christianity, the proper noun good news is that Christ's dying on the cross has made heaven available to us and has cleansed us of original sin. I have nothing to say about the afterlife. Instead, our good news is about peace and fulfillment here on earth. So, if you listen to the quiet voice and you align your goals with your purpose, will you get rich? Will women want you? Will you live to be 100? Maybe, maybe not. No question, a mindset that helps you to fully embrace your goals and chase after them with everything you've got makes you more likely to rack up earthly accomplishments. Our good news is a recipe for really believing in your goals, fully committing to them, deciding that the effort will be worth it. I'll say that again, deciding that the effort will be worth it. Because whatever the outcomes, that is a subjective call that is within your power to decide. Since I already talked about the connection to God here, I will now flip to the pure scientific perspective. Why do humans have consciousness? Why do humans have this big brain that tries to understand the world in its complexity? There's only one reason. And that reason corresponds to the fact that there is only one question in life. And that question is, what should I be doing right now? The purpose of the big brains we humans have is to answer that one question. What should I be doing right now? When your goals are aligned with your purpose, you are answering that question. That's why the alignment brings with it peace and fulfillment. If I keep sermonizing like this, I fear that things will get too dry. So let's watch some Robocop. This is an easy movie to pigeonhole as just a gory sci-fi thriller, but it's really a very layered story. So how does Robocop tie into the ideas I've been talking about? When I say align our goals with our purpose, that sounds basic and simple, but it's not. It's a gauntlet. Mastering your emotions, learning to both listen to and dismiss your self-doubt, finding ways to stir your own inner cauldron of motivation, losing yourself, yet still pressing forward only to discover that you never lost yourself in the first place. Robocop does a better job than my words ever could in making the audience feel this gauntlet and its extreme stakes. Before diving in, here's my half-hearted spoiler warning. Yes, there will be spoilers, but I'm going to focus on themes rather than story. If it was up to me, I would want to hear this beforehand, because it would probably increase my appreciation of the film. So that's my half-hearted spoiler alert. In order to get to how Robocop relates to our group, we need to start with understanding the world of Robocop. Robocop takes place in a world where people are disposable. I've made a little graph to visualize this. On the vertical axis is the world's tendency towards hellishness, and on the horizontal axis is the system's readiness to dispose of people in trying to keep hellishness at bay. Moving up and to the right is a dotted line that is the line of optimal governance. So what we are expressing here is that the more the world tends towards hellishness, the more an optimally governed system will be ready to dispose of people in its efforts to keep order. The Robocop world is way up and to the right. The world very much tends towards hellishness, and commensurately, the system is ready to dispose of people to try and keep order. You could imagine way down and to the left is a paradise, where everything is already fine. Nobody is malicious. There's health, there's plentiful food, and you barely need a system to keep order at all. Our world would be somewhere between paradise and Robocop. The movie opens with a news broadcast, familiarizing us with the harsh world of Robocop.
This is Media Break. You give us 3 minutes, and we'll give you the world.
Good morning. I'm Casey Wong with Jess Perkins. Top story, Pretoria. The threat of nuclear confrontation in South Africa escalated today when the ruling white military government of that besieged city-state unveiled a French-made neutron bomb and affirmed its willingness to use the 3-megaton device as the city's last line of defense.
It is brutal, chaotic, and violent. Bad is normal. If something good is happening, someone is sacrificing to make it that way. The news broadcast moves to a story about Detroit and the OCP Corporation. OCP is the guiding power in Robocop. It is a multi-layered symbol representing authority in all its manifestations. The long name is the Omni Consumer Products Corporation, which, among other things, runs the Detroit Police Department, where the movie is set. Omni Consumer Products is a meaningless name, and I am convinced that they started out with the logo, which you can see here is the letters OCP, styled into the rough form of 3 nested circles. This nested logo is cluing us in that OCP is a multi-layered symbol for authority, at the inner level as the corporation that is running the police department and has designs on building other projects. The second layer of manifestation of authority is society as a whole. On my graph from before, this is the system that in Robocop's world is ready to dispose of people in trying to keep the natural hellishness of the world at bay. At the outer layer of manifestation of authority, OCP represents God. OCP is run by a distant character known only as the Old Man, and it takes on the role of programming, for example, directives into Robocop. The Robocop story is as follows, and please also hold in mind our purpose-focused philosophy. There is a man, Officer Alex Murphy, and OCP places this man into a gauntlet that he will struggle through, and that struggle is of becoming unified with his purpose, which is to be the perfect cop. It is an arduous struggle, where the man loses himself, becomes unrecognizable, a Frankenstein, to then emerge from the gauntlet transformed, but still himself, and discovering that he never lost himself in the first place. Back to the movie. We learn about the deadly situation in Detroit and hear OCP's attitude expressed by one of the high-level minions that operates underneath the distant Old Man.
3 dead police officers, 1 critically injured. Police union leaders blame Omni Consumer Products, OCP, the firm which recently entered into a contract with the city to fund and run the Detroit Metropolitan Police Department. Dick Jones, Division President, OCP.
Every policeman knows when he joins the force that there are certain inherent risks that come with the territory. Ask any cop, he'll tell you. If you can't stand the heat, you better stay out of the kitchen.
Zooming in on Detroit, we meet our hero, Officer Alex Murphy, as he is transferred as a police officer to a new precinct where the officers are well-meaning but explain to him that he is in an environment where he is disposable.
Hi. Murphy, transferring in from Metro South.
Nice precinct.
Yeah, pretty good.
You work for a living down here, Murphy. Get your armor and suit up. Not now. You, Jay, get a cup of coffee.
Hey, Star, is there any word on Frederickson?
They're still listing them as critical.
White must be going out of her mind.
Murphy, huh?
Yeah, that's me.
Man,
Hi.
what brings you to this little paradise?
Beats me, man. I think OCP's moving a lot of new guys up here.
Now, we move from the precinct to the citadel of authority, the conference room at OCP, where we meet the old man and hear him explain his plan to build a beautiful, futuristic Delta City, where things will be better. The movie gives no reason to doubt the sincerity of this plan to improve things, to manifest something beautiful out of the state of chaos that we see all over Robocop's world, and specifically in their local setting of Old Detroit.
My friends, I've had this dream for more than a decade now. A dream which I've invited you all to share with me. In 6 months, we begin construction of Delta City, where Old Detroit now stands. Old Detroit has a cancer. The cancer is crime, and it must be cut out before we employ the 2 million workers that will breathe life into this city again.
Yes.
Next, they talk about crime and policing. Remember the vertical axis, the world's tendency towards hellishness? That's crime. And the horizontal axis, society's willingness to dispose of people? That's policing. And so we meet the terrifying tank on 2 feet, ED-209.
As you know, we've entered into a contract with the city to run local law enforcement. But at Security Concepts, we believe an efficient police force is only part of the solution. No, we need something more. We need a 24-hour-a-day police officer, a cop who doesn't need to eat or sleep, a cop with superior firepower and the reflexes to use it. Fellow executives, it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to the future of law enforcement. Ed 209.
ED-209 was intended to solve the crime problem, but it ends up malfunctioning and blowing to pieces someone in the meeting. Robocop is as gory a movie as they would allow under the R rating. Literally, it originally got an X, and then the director took away moment by moment of gore until it barely squeaked to an R. I normally don't like gore in movies, but I think here it is put to use for 2 important purposes. One, to demonstrate the disposability of people in the Robocop world, and 2, to help us feel the emotional intensity that accompanies going through a personal gauntlet of growth. Illustrating the disposability point, the other attendees at the meeting are not very concerned about ED-209's deadly malfunction.
Too bad about Kenny, huh? His life's in the big city.
Getting back to Officer Murphy, he is soon in pursuit of a gang of robbers who carry out the trope of the head villain killing off one of his minions for not doing an adequate job. The robbers lead Murphy and his partner to a warehouse. They call for backup, but none is available. So he and his partner decide to go in alone. In the real world, this would be insane. They are clearly outgunned. But Murphy's purpose is to be a cop, and the point is that he bravely moves forward, doing what needs to be done. The gang captures Murphy and decides to execute him in the most brutal way, blowing his body apart with gunshots. The barrage of bullets is the entrance to a gauntlet that Murphy must move through, and will happen again later in the movie. Of course, he doesn't quite die, and OCP decides to build him into Robocop, which is their new solution since ED-209 didn't work out. OCP programs Robocop with directives to guide him to be the perfect cop.
What are your prime directives?
Serve the public trust, protect the innocent, uphold the law.
And sets him out onto the streets fighting crime. This is a heightened version of sublimating the self in order to pursue a goal, of just focusing on the goal and losing yourself, to the point here that Murphy doesn't even know that he's a man anymore. This is emphasized when his former partner recognizes him and asks him to admit who he really is, which he can't or doesn't do, and he just returns to his purpose of fighting crime.
Hello. I haven't really had a chance to introduce myself. I'm Ann Lewis. Do you have a name?
How can I help you, Officer Lewis?
It's not really what I meant. Don't you have a name? Murphy. It's you. You really don't remember me, do you?
Excuse me. I have to go. Somewhere there is a crime happening.
He moves to the next stage of passing through the gauntlet when he starts to remember his old life. He looks himself up in the computer and re-educates himself. He starts investigating his own death or near death, and that leads him to one of the high-ups at OCP. Remember, OCP represents authority, but that doesn't mean that it's all good. He fights ED-209 and suffers another barrage of bullets, marking his continued journey through the gauntlet. One of the consequences is that a hole is punctured in his visor, allowing him to finally see the world again with his regular eyes. His former partner rescues him and takes him to a hideout, where he continues his journey of rediscovering himself. He removes his visor entirely, and now we see his face again.
You may not like what you're going to see.
He processes the loss of his former self and starts to accept who he is now, which is a struggle that he needs to do by himself.
Leave me alone.
For reasons I won't get into, the robbers who had shot up Murphy are now chasing him and track him down to the hideout, where we see the theme of a person being transformed through a gauntlet being played out again. Only this time, it's one of the robbers, whose gauntlet takes the form of being submerged in a vat of toxic waste. Unlike Murphy, who took on his gauntlet with bravery, this robber's wickedness means that the gauntlet ruins him, and he emerges as a distorted wretch. I am not going to give away the ending, except to say that the last lines of the movie are Murphy encountering the God figure who runs OCP and is known only as the Old Man.
Nice shooting, son. What's your name?
Murphy.
And now we see that he never lost himself in the first place. He has become aligned with his purpose of being the perfect cop. And yet the man still remains. In a world of disposability, he took on his gauntlet bravely and emerged transformed. I hope you've enjoyed my analysis of Robocop as much as I've enjoyed making it. I'll see you in the group.